France is going to help Ukraine with a fresh brigade, which they are going to train with Ukrainian recruits and which France is going to equip. This is after Poland, the next nation which is going to supply Ukraine with fresh troops in the near future. In other events, Trump had a phone call with the Ukrainian president, and there he emphasized that it's not going to be good for Russia if he's going to be president, that Zelensky should not expect Trump to do Putin's bidding. We'll talk about this as well as about the developments along the front line in this situation report about the war in Ukraine. Before we start, a quick reminder, I'm still collecting money to buy fire trucks for Ukraine to save civilian lives there, to save lives there in Ukraine. In case you want to participate, the link for it is in the description. Thank you very much to everyone already helping. We'll start off with the strikes in the rear areas from both sides. Ukraine has struck Russian Coast Guard positions on the Crimean Peninsula with drones. Damage is being reported, even though I have not seen evidence. Attackams have struck Luhansk, a military academy there, and damage is being reported and shown on pictures. And we have a video showing fire on an airfield in Rostov. There the fire has drones have hit it and damage is being shown, even though we don't have the exact details. On the northern front line, we have Ukrainians reporting an attack into Sumy. After heavy artillery preparation and artillery bombardment, Russian troops have crossed the border on the 16th of July, so already a couple of days ago, but the Ukrainians say they were able to defeat them and push them back over the border. We have Russians still crossing the border at other positions. A geolocated video shows Russian troops inside the town of Sotnitsky Kozachok. The location itself is just 50 meters away from the international border. As you can see here, this is the town that was recently reported as occupied here, and the Russians have basically crossed over at this point and were attacked by the Ukrainians afterwards. As of now, I do not see any evidence of them currently occupying the town. Further east, we have a small Russian success at Liboke. Here the Russians were able to get into this area again, where they had recently been defeated or pushed back from the Ukrainians. We've had Ukrainian positions here, but now we have geolocated Russian presence there again. So the front line is probably somewhere like this again. At least that would be the guess from my side. I have no news from Vovchansk. Nothing seems to have changed there, so we switch right over to the eastern front. Here at Piszczane, the Ukrainians were pushed back over the river here. The Russians have been geolocated roughly at this point. We have a visual evidence of it as well, a geolocation on the other side, so the Russians managed to cross over at Piszczane. Further south at Terny, the Russians also advanced in the... I just scroll too far. The Russians advanced here. We have them advancing a little forward. We have that here looking a little bit like Italy and like the map of Italy. And this is here. This here, and if we compare it with this, so the Russians have reached this point here, roughly up here. Another small advance by the Russians. Recently they have been pushed back from this position for I think 2 kilometers in depth. Now they were able to crawl back to a certain degree. South of the Seversky Donetsk, the Russians have shown visual evidence of them capturing the town of Ivano Darivka. Here we have the visual evidence of them being there, here inside, and this is significantly west of Spirne. So the Russians have raised a flag in here, but then there is claims by Ukrainians that artillery fire later was done by the Russians on this position, claiming that the Ukrainians are back. I have not found the original source. I've had it from Ukrainian mill bloggers who didn't give me a source for that either. So it might be that Ivano Darivka has been recaptured by the Ukrainians. As of now, the only visual evidence I can confirm is the Russians raising the flag in it and actually gathering quite a lot of them, which would implicate that the Ukrainians were nowhere close by. So the position here should be fairly solidly under Russian control, at least at the later point, probably more or less like this here, which was the recent Russian success. So it's possible that the Ukrainians have recaptured Ivano Darivka, but as of now, I cannot confirm that. Further south, we have visual evidence indicating that the Ukrainians might have been somewhat successful in a counterattack in Pivnichne. Here we have a video showing Ukrainian from this position. Ukrainian soldiers have made a video that is geolocated here, right at this point, and it shows numerous Russian casualties, corpses lying on the ground. That would either indicate the Russians were advancing towards that point and were defeated, or that the Ukrainians have recaptured it. In the past, we've already seen the Russians up here, so it's possible that Ukrainian counterattacks were somewhat successful. It's unclear. That video at least showed that the Ukrainian presence was up to that point, so the area held by the Ukrainians should, I guess, be extended at least to this point as of now. Further south, in the area of Avdiivka, roughly, we have changes as well. The Russians have additional success in New York. Here they have advanced further in the east. They have reached more or less, or is it? They have reached this part here. Roughly, this should be under Russian control as of now. The Ukrainians have counterattacked here, but I do not see any significant success from their side. Further to the west, the Russians managed to capture Progress. This is a significant advance over the last few days because the Russians recently had just been here. Now they have already reached the town of Progress and they managed to take it as well. Further south, they have reached the center of Novoselivka Persha here. We have geolocations, by the way, for all of this. So this is the Russians in Progress. The video shows them raising the flag inside. And here we have them in Novoselivka Persha. Here at the center, there is a small river running between the two sides of the town, as you can see here. And they have reached until this part here. This is now under Russian control. The original video shows them taking prisoners, so we also know it was still defended by Ukrainians. The rumors of a supposed Ukrainian withdrawal, at least as of now, have not been confirmed. Further south, the Russians advance in the direction of Karlivka. Here we have a geolocation of them being here in the tree line again. This is them being spotted right here, so they're slowly creeping forwards south of the reservoir here as well. Further south, we have the Russians in the north of Krasnohorivka. Here the advance has been fairly quick. They are now at this point already. We have this here, geolocated right in the north of the town. Recently we've had them here and down here. Obviously, it's a little difficult to say how much of this means is actually under Russian control. We had them roughly here. We had them here. Recently, we had them roughly here and down here. So it's possible, at least, that the front line is more or less like this now. It's unclear. The Russians themselves claim that they control 90% of Krasnohorivka. If my rough estimate of a front line, which would probably rather be extended like this here, if that rough estimate is somewhere close to reality, then the Russian claims would be true, that the Russians control 90% by now. As we can see, they have advanced substantially through Krasnohorivka over the last few days. Further south, the Russians have advanced as well. Here at Teorivka, on the tree line here, was a Russian mechanized attack that was attacked by the Ukrainians, but the Russian presence has been advanced up to this here. We have this on picture as well, geolocated right at the point here as well. At Orikhiv, we have in the area of Orikhiv, I'm sorry, that was not meant to be here. west of it, I have no change until we come towards Hulia Pole. Here we have the Russians advancing as well. This is them south of west of Marfopil. West of Marfopil, the Russians have advanced along the tree line here. This is showing right west of it to the south of the town, so roughly should be here. No, excuse me, I was wrong, it was here. So the Russians have advanced in this tree line here. Overall, not a massive change there, but some Russian advance as well. From the Dnipro, we now have more or less the confirmation that the Ukrainians fully evacuated Krenki after many months of fighting. The last Ukrainian presence on the other side of the Dnipro has ended now. Whether that whole operation was a valuable operation and a smart move will obviously will have to be decided in the future. But as of now, at least the Ukrainians have left the area. The new defense minister of the United Kingdom has said that Ukraine will be allowed to attack Russia with British weapons inside of Russia as well. So we have again a claim that the United Kingdom allows the Ukrainians to strike into Russia with, for instance, the Storm Shadow. But at the same time, he did not respond to the question if Ukraine is allowed to strike missile bases inside of Russia. This would indicate something again like what we had from the United States in the past, where the US said it's the decision of Ukraine what to attack. They have the control over it, but at the same time implying they better not do it otherwise. As of now, at least, we have several claims by the British that it's allowed. Then we have denials again. I guess the best way would simply be to wait until we see the usage of British cruise missiles into Russia. Until then, the speculation about it is kind of moot at the same time. In troop generation, we have a calculation now for the manpower costs that Russia are occurring, and in this term, I actually mean the costs in financial terms. The expenditure of Russia for its manpower, for its soldiers, and for veterans and disabilities, and for the widows, between July of 2023 and June 2024, so for a full year, was 2.75 to 3 trillion rubles. That's more than 30 billion US dollars, or more than 30 billion euros. In total, it's roughly 1.5 of Russia's GDP and 8% of the national balance of the expenditure of the government, showing that the financial incentives the Russians have to put up to allow for the continued fight are eating into their financial means. India has summoned the Ukrainian ambassador after Zelensky criticized Narendra Modi's visit to Moscow. This shows that any expectations that India might be a pro-Western part in this overall is obviously too far-fetched. At the same time, the Russian censorship authority is currently planning to force social media channels with more than 10,000 subscribers or more than 1,000 daily viewers to submit their personal data so they can be identified who they actually are. Otherwise, it would be blocked inside of Russia, and companies would be banned from advertising on publications of those channels, obviously helping them censor and identify channels that are not in the direction the government intends the public to be informed. Trump and Zelensky had a phone call, and Trump said, according to Ukrainian reports, he told Zelensky that Zelensky should not believe that an election of Trump will be advantageous for Russia. Obviously, we can call this a lip service or whatever, but that's not the point here. He said that. We'll have to see how it is in the future if he gets elected. Russia, at the same time, is threatening that it will supply modern ASM, so anti-ship missiles, to the Houthis in Yemen as a response to Western aid to Ukraine. There again, we'll have to see how much Russia will be even able to do this, but this is a current threat that was issued by the Russians. And in international support, France has announced that it's going to provide 128 VABs, those are APCs, 18 César artillery, 24 light tanks, probably AMX-10 RCs, and additional equipment to Ukraine. And the number seems to correspond with the 2,100 men that France wants to train at the end of the year in France itself. So by the news we have from France, France is going to supply Ukraine with a fresh brigade, probably a little light in the strength, but still more or less a fresh brigade that is even going to be equipped by France as well. And while we have reached more or less the end of this channel, of this video, I want to thank Christian for the book he sent me, The 50-Year War, Conflict and Strategy in the Cold War, from Norman Friedman. Thank you so much for your book donation, and I want to thank Adam Ruth for 4 books he sent me: Portugal's Bush War in Mozambique, Temperature Rising, Iran's Revolutionary Guards and Wars in the Middle East, as well as Barrel of a Gun, a War Correspondent's Misspent Moments in Combat, and finally the From Ironclads to Dreadnought, Development of the German Battleship 1864 to 1918. Thank you so much for these book donations. I really, really appreciate it. And if you want to support the channel as well, or send me some books, then all the links are in the description. I really appreciate this kind of support for this channel. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm. Leave a comment in the comment section, and if you're new here, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. But that's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.